But then you could look at your parents being the way they are in terms of very polarized Christian as a hindrance to your growth. And why would you have chosen that?
Yeah.
You know?
I know. There's something
maybe just to grow or something.
There's something to my relationship with my mom. It's really heavy. And yeah, she's very religious, and I'm gay. My brother's gay. I mean, this is like, there's something about her soul contract in this as well.
Oh, totally.
But you know, she could be very critical and harsh and judgmental. So there is something about having to peel that away on a daily basis from my life that I have to stay tuned into a practice of letting go.
Dude, Kate and I were just talking about this the other day. Like, it's one thing for people to be raised in like a really religious household, and for them to finally break out of that and say, you know what, I'm going to start explore on my own and come to my own conclusions about religion and spirituality. And then it's another thing for someone to be gay or lesbian and come out of a religious household. But you're doing both. Like, that's insane. That's so crazy, because you could catch so much judgment just for one of those things.
It was rough.
Yeah.
It was really, really hard to face it, because I just knew that the repercussions were severe.
So do you remember when you told your parents?
I was probably 23 when I had that conversation with my mom, but she knew it. And I had like a secret girlfriend when I was 19, and she knew it. And I think she knew it when I was a kid. But, you know,
she just, it's like repress.
Oh yeah. She was like, take your Vans off. We argued over what shoes I wore and what my hair was like. And she was always trying to nudge me as far towards the center as she could. And
the more she nudged you, the more you're just like rebelling, right?
I was a tomboy. Yeah. I mean, well, no matter what, you're born who you are born as. And I was a very strong-willed kid and had very strong ideas of who I was and who I wanted to be. And she was very strong. She's a very strong person. And so I think her fears, she put her fears of being judged and being ostracized from...
Well, yeah, think about what her community would think about her to have a daughter like you or a son like your brother.
And I don't think it's probably a part of it that I was going to go to hell if I carried that lifestyle, and she was responsible for my soul as my parent. That's her belief. Yeah. And so it's heavy burden on her to live like that, but you can't change someone's shoes and make them different. That's crazy. And that's so we fought, and it was, rage.
Really?
Yeah, it's tough. It's
So you had a girlfriend at 23?
I had a girlfriend at 19, basically. So
do you remember the actual telling your mom? Or was it just sort of implied?
I remember. But she sort of squeezed it out of me, and I said, well, maybe I'm bi. There's something, you could be 50-50. She goes, no, you can't. And I said, all right, well, she asked me about this girl, and I said, well, I love her. I can't do anything about that. Yeah. And she
but she desperately wants
to. She goes, I will never go to a lesbian wedding.
She said that?
Right then.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, all right, well, like it's so far down the road.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so the struggle, it was a constant struggle.
So it's almost like you were like built for this, or it's like you came in and all this stuff had to happen for you,
Maybe. I definitely see there's a lot of things in my life where, I didn't have like this super chill upbringing, even though it may have looked that way from the outside. Like I said, my mom is a very strong mom. I had a stepdad that, from an early age, and then I had my biological dad, but he sort of was more interested in his girlfriends and just basically broke up with me at a certain point. So did he
have any issue with all this stuff or no?
My biological dad?
Yeah.
No, he's pretty open-minded.
Yeah.
He's pretty easygoing about stuff, but
your stepfather, what about that?
He loves me, and that trumps everything.
Yeah.
And he's willing to wish for my happiness, even though he still thinks I'll go to hell.
Wow.
But he's much softer about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that such a Gosh, what a horrible way to live. I mean, to think that all these people are going to go to hell.
I know.
Gosh, that would be such a burden, it would be so hard to believe that. Because I first started thinking, is it possible for Christians? When I first started, I was really, really into it, like it was a self thing. No one pushed me to be really into Christianity, but I started thinking like, is it possible for people to be Christians and not believe in hell or whatever? And I could never get it out of my mind that, Mother Teresa or the guy in Africa that doesn't, never heard of God or anything, right. They're just going to burn in hell forever and ever and ever with no ability to ever get out.
Right.
And it's going to be, gnashing of teeth and, where the fire doesn't stop and all this bizarre language. And it doesn't seem to be consistent with God to do that.
Exactly. Exactly. I so agree with you. And what a load to carry on your back. But then that's that if I'm not suffering, I'm not representing Jesus in his suffering. There's that.
Yeah.
I really feel like my parents feel that way. They're afraid of like having fun. It's really strange.
And just letting loose and
they call me a hedonist. And I mean,
wow.
It's such a, hopefully they never listen to this podcast. I love you.
They'll never, just kidding. I didn't mean the word I said.
Yeah. But overall, I think really religion or just adhering to any identity that you think is you, that causes so much conflict because then you just got to carry that cross figuratively. You have to say, well, I guess I'm super healthy, you're fat, or, whatever it is, like I'm spiritual and I'm on a higher plane and you haven't even discovered it. You're still like, whatever, you're still drinking bottomless mimosas on a patio.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty fun too.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
But anyone who claims something as them, they're left with that burden of then being a judge for the people that aren't.
And it's weird too, because when you put that label on yourself, you're not even sure what the actual tenets are of what that label represents. Like the teachings that come under whatever label you say, like Buddhism, Christianity, being a Muslim, there's all kinds of different interpretations of what that one label is. And not even people within that category agree with each other. But if you say, oh, I'm a Christian or something, then all of a sudden you have to, if something happens on in a movie that you don't agree with, there's nudity or something like that, and then you're taught that Christians are supposed to not like that. And so now I have to start acting this way. It's almost like a switch in your mind where it's not how you really feel, but the group that you're in all feels that way. So then now all of a sudden I have to feel that way too. And I wonder if over the course of years, conditioning your mind to react to things like nudity or something like that causes you, it just warps your mind in some way, causes you to, you know what I mean? It's weird. It's bizarre.
I do. I think that's why we have to constantly check ourselves. Is this authentic? And that, like, does this vibrate with me? Does it feel good?
Am I really offended at this?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes like when I attempt to meditate, there are two paths in my mind. One that feels relaxing of thoughts and one that I feel like I'm working, but it's a very tiny, barely unnoticeable difference because you're so used to carrying the stress.